I'm Justin Davis, and this is Drone Camps RC. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis, and today I have the Kingkong Fly Egg 130 here. There's also a smaller version of this quad as well. I believe they're the same price, but this one has much larger props on here. This one is running 2840 props and 4-in-1 BL Heli. This is a 10 amp ESC stacked right underneath the flight controller, and this is interesting because check this out, it's actually dampened, so it does have little rubber grommets on both sides to give it a little bit of vibration isolation between the airframe and the motors coming back to the flight controller, so pretty nice. And up on top here we have 5.8 gigahertz transmitter, and that's also 25 milliwatt and also 100 milliwatt, so that's pretty cool. 16 channels on that one. And the camera itself, I believe the camera, we're actually at 800 TVL camera on this, so that's a CMOS camera, and that's not bad for a micro. 800 TVL is pretty decent. The image transmission range is around 600 to 800 meters. I believe I was getting way out there with mine, and it comes with this Frsky XM receiver. So if you don't know about this receiver, this is great because this is S-Bus, and you can run this cable right here, this antenna cable, way up to the top and bring it out the top and really maximize your range. You're going to run out of video before you run out of reception with this particular transmitter radio receiver. So I highly recommend this XM, and there's a little bind button right here, and really that could be relocated on the very top, but for my test I left it right where it was and it did just fine. Now the motors on here, they are 1105 7000 kV motors, so they are a lot better punch than the original Kingkong GT series. You're going to get tons of punch with that. But I do have my original Kingkong. This is my 110 over here, and let's just check that. These are 1105 8500s, so these are a little higher kV, but these are both running the same size props. And let's go ahead and talk about flight characteristics between these two, because I always like to give you guys a little bit of a comparison from one quad to another. This one seemed to be a little more locked in than this one seemed to be a little more, maybe a little more floaty. But it's been a few days since I've flown, also since I've been on vacation and just got back. I took a couple quads with me, actually this one on my vacation, had a lot of fun with this one. And this one also has that XM receiver it came with on this quad. But very, very similar flight characteristics, but this one feels more locked in than this one. I really do like this larger scale right now. I've been flying a lot of quads that are quite a bit smaller, around these 2035 props that go on the smaller version of this here, and we'll do a nice review on this one coming up soon. We'll do a little flight test, but it looks almost like exactly the same type of aluminum, aircraft aluminum frame on both of these. They look very identical, just that this one has a little larger motors and much longer extension on the bottom for the arms. 130 size, and I believe this one was a 90 size if I'm not mistaken. See, that one was actually 100 size, so we'll do a review on that one coming up. But let's go ahead and talk about the highlight of this video. I like the way they have the camera mounted in here, but it doesn't seem like I can turn this. It doesn't seem, unless I loosen all of this up, that I can turn it. So I would like this to be adjustable on the fly. That would be kind of maybe one con about this entire setup. And this connector back here, I would switch this out to a JST or an XT30. If you want to run this on 3S, you definitely can do that. I saw other people testing this one out on 3S, and it does just fine on 3S. So we also have that little image transmission antenna out here, sending out your 5.8 off of this back end. We have USB and Pico BLX on here, and if you guys watch my channel, you know that Pico BLX is actually one of my favorite microcontrollers on here. It's not a proprietary size stack right here. It's actually very much very standard setup for that. So no extra small parts or anything like what we had over here with this other guy. So we have a much different setup on the bottom of this. You can see this is very different from what we have here. So We have a traditional setup here, and you can use other flight controllers and ESC combos on this one, which is nice. This one's going to be more proprietary, so I like that they made this change, because a lot of people, hey, if you brown out your flight controller, you need a way to be able to just put a new one on there, or your ESC stack. So very cool. Thumbs up for that one, for this particular quad. So if you burn out your ESCs, you don't have to get the exact same ESC setup that you had before. You can try something a little bigger. Maybe you want to upgrade it to 20 amp ESCs and run it on 4S. Now, one thing I noticed about this quad is that when I went out to the field and I did my flight tests, these wires right here, they need to be either with a tiny zip tie right here, or a little bit of electrical tape around it, around the arm, to hold these wires in place, because they're quite long and they actually do stick up quite a bit. They pretty much can hit the props right here. You can see that. So I definitely secure these down before you take yours out for your first flight. Now, this is a cool frame, yes, but all the rest of the stuff that it comes with, that's where this one is kind of a good value. You get some 2.8-inch sort of half surround prop guards right here, and they also give you screws in this. So don't use the same screws with these prop guards and put them back in if you take these off, because you'll damage your motor. So be very careful about that, guys. I have a lot of guys ruining their quads out there these days by putting the long screws up inside their motors and ruining them. So set these aside somewhere in a Ziploc bag and label them the short screws. There's 4 screws on the bottom of each of these motors. So take special care to do that. Also, you get some motor guards, and if you're flying around concrete and stuff like that, I would most definitely put these on there. I fly around sort of a control line track, and I do crash on the concrete from time to time, so I'll probably actually use these. And these are M2 5mm screws, and I'll go ahead and put these somewhere. These might actually be 4mm, just 1mm shorter than these 5mm screws. You also get this little, it's like a prop remover tool, and a couple extra rubber bands, because this little guy has foam on the bottom of it and a rubber band here. Also, you'll notice at the very bottom of this quad, there's a little beeper right there, and this was pretty loud, but it's facing down, so if you're face down like this, you can still hear it from about 20 feet away. So it is nice that this one also has a beeper, and it has 2 little built-in LEDs in the very back of this frame. But I have to say, like, the design of this is what I was really excited about. Seeing this come out on the GearBest website, I wanted to get it as quick as possible before I went on vacation, of course, but I just didn't get here in time. Now, you also do get a 350 milliamp 35C 2S battery, pretty standard, and it's powered off of this balance port lead. And I would, like I said, I would either switch this out to a JST here, snip this off and solder on a JST so you can run it 2 to 3S from there, or switch it out to an XT30, one of those yellow connectors, and that'll be a lot better. You also get a manual for your Frsky XM receiver, one of the most sought after receivers out there right now. So if you can order a few extra of those, have those ready for your bind and fly quads, they're awesome. You can put them on all types of different quads. You also get a manual here, which it does a pretty good explanation of showing you your board layout. A lot of these quads come with flight controllers that don't have this, so this is nice because you have it right here for yourself. If you need to add a different receiver or anything on here, you want to add an extra beeper, maybe this one burns out, you can find out where everything is. You also have specs here for the Fly Egg 100 and for the Fly Egg 130. And on this very back page, how to put your props on, all your different accessories here, and some of the Betaflight settings that are already configured into this. So binding it up in Betaflight, very, very simple process to bind this one. There is a little gold button on this receiver, and all you do is you hold that gold button down, plug it in, make sure you activate, I believe it's D16 inside the TARANIS X7. So S-Bus D16, and you should be bound up and seeing channel maps inside Betaflight pretty quickly. But awesome quad, really good review on this quad, and I got to give it 2 thumbs up because I like the design of this one, and I actually do enjoy the way it flies. Now, when it does get down to a lower voltage, I did have it sort of spin out on me and hit the ground. So I believe at this lower voltage, this ESC has that problem where it does reset, and I think that you're going to have to get a battery that's going to be a little higher C rating than this one. This one's 35C, and I believe you could actually benefit from doing something like a 50C battery, 500 milliamps. So 2S 500 50C battery. This is going to be a much better battery for this particular quad, and it has no problem lifting that battery for your flight. So I have two of these that came with two other quads that I got recently, and this is definitely the one that I'm going to recommend for your quad, and that one's called the Full Speed 2S 500 milliamp 50C. So let's go outside now and let's do some flying of this little Fly Egg 130, and I'll show you how well it does out in the field and in between the trees. It was actually pretty nimble. I have my rates set all the way up to 75 on each different roll, pitch, and yaw axis. So I'll see you in the field. Alright guys, let's go ahead and test out this Kingkong 130 Fly Egg. I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this larger size prop on these 110s and 130s lately. It just seems to have a little more float for freestyle stuff, and it just seems to have a little more power with the 1105s versus 1104s. Obviously a little larger motor, but I feel like very similar weight, close to 20 grams more for these slightly larger quads. But it still feels a lot like a micro. It's not like a 5-inch, and I can still get in these really small spots and fly in between trees low to the ground with, I feel like, a lot less consequences, and that's what I like so much about micros. And they're not as noisy. There's a baseball field over here behind me, and nobody's being disturbed by what I'm doing with this little quad, and they don't mind if we fly over here, which is super nice. So I'm just kind of cruising around and trying out the yaw, the roll, and the pitch axis on this particular quad. It feels pretty loose. I would say that the other one, the Kingkong Gt 110, it feels a little more locked in, but it's pretty loose, and maybe that's because I upped my rates by 5%, 5 points on the yaw, pitch, and roll axis to 75 instead of 70. So if you wanted to feel a little more subtle on the sticks, leave it at 70. The stock super rates are just fine. Leave those right where they are, and leave all your default PIDs the same. It seems to work fine on the default PIDs. And not quite as easy to get under things as the little Makerfire one, 67mm that I flew a couple days ago. So it's just quite a bit larger as a 130 size, but it feels like it has plenty of power. There's 1105s, a little knife edge across the trees there. Come back down and explore some of this undergrowth. Wanting to go under this fence here, but didn't quite make it. But kind of bouncing up and down through the rocks. Check out that gap, and thinking about going back through that gap. Here we go. I'm gonna try again. I got lucky and made it through two times. Thinking about it for a third time, but I really couldn't see it coming back. Go into that sign, but it is quite nimble. I have to say, this is, again, I really like this prop size. It just feels like a lot more locked in than something like a 90. I'm used to flying the smaller ones lately, like the Baby Hawk, and this one just has a lot more speed and floaty feeling. With a little extra power actually helps out a lot. The yaw axis is really, really hot. If you saw that kind of spin around by that tree. I'll try this again here. There we go. And I thought I was going to find those branches through there. Some ghost branches in there. Back and forth between these trees. And found a branch right there. I'm just going to try that again. There's a line. There's a really nice line through here. And if you can time it right, you can get in between each of these trees. But this is it's a really fast quad, so you really kind of have to plan ahead for your turns through if you're going to slalom through these trees. A lot of low branches through there. But man, this is fun on 2S, and I haven't even tried it on 3S yet, but I definitely want to. I've seen other people's videos with it on 3S, and it absolutely is insane on 3S, and this 10 amp ESC stack seems to be able to handle that. If you do that JST upgrade, or switch out that connector to the JST or the XT30, it's probably going to be better set up with the XT30. But it's a fun flying quad for sure. So I'm going to give this one definitely for design thumbs up. I'm going to give flight characteristics thumbs up. And I think the only thing that bothered me about this quad was that on the stock battery, when it got low, the low voltage cutoff, or it seemed to reset the ESC is what happens, not the low voltage cutoff. But you'll see it happen here when I get to the end of the field. But other than that, absolutely awesome quad, a lot of fun to fly. I'm going to continue to fly this one and probably do more mods. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'm Justin Davis.